is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the SIG Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
And here we go on a fun day Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now in the SIG Sauer Studios. Mark Walters in front of the Patriot Mobile microphone. And, of course, all being brought to you by the great X Insurance. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing, my brother?
Not too bad. Here we are, Monday.
Did you, I'm just curious, did you have a long night last night? I did. The time change really got to me last night. I was up in the studio till probably 2:30 in the morning. You know, I'm out here late anyway, right, on Sundays?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And because I was awake, because of the time change, that 1 extra hour killed me. I didn't get to sleep till like 4 o'clock this morning.
Yikes.
And, yeah, that crushed me during the day today, but here we are for Armed American Radio's Daily. You didn't feel that at all?
No, I was ready to go to bed when I got home.
Yeah, well, that'll help. Then you can sleep that off. But yeah, I hate the daylight savings thing. Greg, X is having some problems today. I guess they've been cyber attacked all day long today. I noticed that. I was one of the ones that was in the first line there when I saw that happen. So we can eliminate that from the live streaming platform today. That was unable to hook up. But we are everywhere. But I'll let you give the spiel, and then we'll go to our guest, Andy Hoosier, and we'll talk about, can you trust the government to tell you the truth on anything? And, yeah, we're going to talk about some UFOs, too.
All right. Well, if you want to watch the show, just search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters on YouTube, Rumble, and Fascist Book. We're not on X today, so if you want to join our live chat, all you have to do is head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason. How are you, brother?
Hold on, I think Andy's having a tech issue real quick.
Andy's having now's not a good day to have a tech issue.
Andy, you there?
I got you now. There we are.
There we go. Andy Hoosier. Everybody's having issues. Did you get hacked, too? You and Elon got hacked?
It might have gotten hacked. Yeah, you know what? I think it might have been the ETs taking over things. Who knows? I'm not sure.
Ooh, did you happen to look at what I sent you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I've been reading it. I have not seen the actual documentary. Is it out yet officially?
No. It hit South by Southwest Sunday.
Okay.
And it comes out, I believe, March 13th. So in 3 days, I believe it hits. And I've got a link for it. So coming out.
I'm ready, man. I've been reading up on it, so I'm excited.
Okay. Well, it goes to a bigger issue. You know, we talk about can you trust the government to tell you anything? You look at what's happening with Epstein. You look at the lies about guns. And the reason I wanted to tie this all together today was because I read another text from an X, formerly known as Twitter, from Blumenthal and Shifty Shift today. And the lies coming from the left are just unbelievable. They're just one right after the other. These are the people that have been in control for so many years. It begs that question. Can you trust anything the government tells you? Anything, about anything? FBI's been lying about crime data. Can you trust them ever again? ABC, NBC, so we can CBS, MSDNC, CNN, and in some cases Fox. Can you ever trust them? Should you ever trust them again? And why would you if you know they've already lied to you?
Yeah.
Is Bondi going to get the truth? Ever?
I hope so. I mean, she seems frustrated as well. They finally got some more of the documents on Epstein apparently last week, where Cash is going through those now before handing it off to Pam Bondi to release them. So, look, I mean, botched one for the first round of releases and document dumps that we were supposed to see. They've botched the first round of it. We'll see if they can redeem themselves, because we have all of the agencies that are apparently on the transparency mindset, wanting to get this information out to the general public. Then you have Congress with a task force that's being run by Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. I think Nancy Mace is on there, a few others, that's supposed to be looking into a lot of different issues, including the Epstein list, the UFOs, UAPs, 9/11, even the assassinations, which, I mean, all of this information was supposed to be released relatively early in the Trump administration. We have yet to see it. So, yeah, I look, I mean, it's going to take a long time for us to trust the federal government again. I think finally doing a massive release of information would help, but it's not going to make us trust them overnight for sure. And especially now that we got this new information about Epstein's list, saying that now with this additional information that it's going to be, quote, heavily redacted, because they say that there are issues of national security. What the heck's that supposed to mean, Mark? National security? Does that just mean that very high elected officials are on this list? Or, I mean, what the heck does that mean? We want to know. Do the dump. We know you know these issues, and we know that you know that we know these issues. Release them to where we can see them. We can finally say, see, we told you so. You've been lying to us for years, and start the mending process. We'll see where it goes from there.
Greg, you jumped in. Does that mean that there's high-ranking officials on that list?
Absolutely. And there's people above presidents on that list. And by that, I mean there's people that are princes and kings of countries that are on that list.
You know what it tells me? I'm going to go in a different direction. It tells me that we'll never get the truth. We will never, ever know. That's what it tells me. It's not a matter of who's on the list. We'll never know. Do you believe the Warren report on the Kennedy assassination?
No.
Of course. What would change your mind all of a sudden? You think the government's going to allow the information to come out that shows the Warren report was bunk and they've lied to the American people since 1963? Are you going to believe them all of a sudden?
The unedited Zapruder film would be nice.
How are you going to know that that's the unedited Zapruder film? Because the government gave it to you and said it is?
The edited version shows a tree floating in the air where there was allegedly supposed to be just vacancy. Like there wasn't supposed to be a tree there.
Yet the point that I'm making, to go to the bigger picture, is we will never trust what comes from them. How do we know that what they give us is it? Oh, we're sorry. We withheld this from you since 1963, but this is it. You're not going to roll your eyes and go, okay, all right, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm hoping that this new administration, I mean, look, I trust someone like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino in the FBI. I trust Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the DHS. I trust Donald Trump to where if they're the ones that come out and say, look, we've been trying to get this for years. We finally got it. Here's the best that we can do. Here you are. I would be more apt to trusting what they say as opposed to, you know, a politician that's been there for 30 years and being like, oh, we finally thought it was okay to release this information. If it came directly from their mouth and said, we're giving you the best that we can right now, and this is what we have, I would be open to hearing it, and I would probably trust that a little bit more. Not to say that I would completely trust the government or that institution as a whole, but I would trust that individual being like, wow, you guys came in as the ones who really were, you know, Kash Patel, a prime example, a guy that said that he wanted to turn the FBI building into a federal museum, you know, and just reform the entire agency and hit the reset button. If he releases it, I would be more apt to trust it because he hasn't been one of those guys that's been a bureaucrat within that agency for 30, 40, 50 years, and then all of a sudden thinks that we should trust him. I would be apt to trust the leadership now if they're able to get it out. But so far, they haven't been able to get anything out.
Okay, and I'm not disputing anything you're saying because I trust Kash Patel, too. I've talked to the man face to face. All right? I believe him. I trust him. That doesn't mean that I believe that what he gives us, he believes is what, you know, is what he has. I'll give you that. If Kash Patel comes out and says, this is what I got, I'm just not going to believe that that's everything that's out there. I'm only going to believe that that's what Kash has got. Now, or gotten, change my wording there. But let's go to Bondi as a prime example of that. Bondi goes on Jesse Waters on Fox, puts out this information. She's going to release all this documentation on Epstein the next day. We're all going to see it. And when she gets it, because she was told she was going to get it, they went through everything they had. It didn't have everything that she wanted. It gets released. She's got some key lime pie on her face. I say that because she's from Florida. All right, maybe she's got a little rubbed Cuban sandwich in her face because she's from Tampa, and that's where Cuban sandwiches come from. That's debatable. I know some of you folks might go, oh, that's not true. They come from Miami. That's a fight for another show, not this one. But the point that I'm making with this is I feel bad for her because I think what happened in this case is she went to Washington with a lot of naivety. I'm coming in like gangbusters. I'm running the DOJ. I'm AG. You're going to give everybody's going to give her what she wants because she's the boss now. She's believing, well, nobody else was giving the other ones a boss because they didn't want to look for it. I'm coming in. I'm going to look for it. And all of a sudden she realized the deep state is a really bad word I can't say, a lot blank deeper than she ever thought it was. So the question is, do you trust Bondi? Yeah, I trust Bondi to get the information out that she has. I don't trust the information that she gets is everything, and we're never going to see it all. I do not believe we're ever going to find out what happened with Kennedy. The fact that we don't know tells us we know.
Yeah.
And we kind of have to believe that that's the case. So, yeah, I believe that she's going to do that. We ever going to get the truth from the FBI on crime statistics? John Lott just pulled the rug out from underneath him. They've been lying about crime stats to push a political agenda, which was anti-gun through the other administration. Then they quietly changed the numbers. Do I trust Kash Patel to come in and tell us that they've changed the numbers? That's not going to happen again? Yeah. Do I think it can happen again? Yeah. Until they clean out all those bureaucrats. How many bureaucrats are there? Guys, there's tens and tens and tens of thousands of bureaucrats in the federal hole. When we come back from the break, I'm going to take it to the UAP UFO phenomenon with an article that I read, and I'll tell you why. It's right along these lines that we're talking about, and it's going to be a fascinating conversation. So today's theme, can you trust the government to tell you the truth ever about anything? We'll be right back with Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason.
The following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the 6 Hour Studios. Patriot Mobile Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom. Guys, I'll be taping an interview tomorrow with Leah from Patriot Mobile, who will be live at a gun rights event and a conservative event in Austin, Texas tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. We'll determine when we're going to play that, but it's evergreen stuff. But we want you to get that, to hear from them and what they're doing on your behalf while they're out there. It's more than just a phone company, guys. They put their money where their mouth is. They support gun rights causes. They support conservative causes, and they do pay for it. They sponsor all of this stuff. They're incredible. PatriotMobile.com. Make sure to check them out. And I'll after that interview tapes tomorrow, I'll let you know when we're going to play it. Welcome back to the studios, guys. It's all brought to you by X Insurance. Please go out of your way to visit all of our great partners. You can find them at armedamericanradio.com. Greg, I would venture to say that was a lively discussion we had during the break, no?
Yeah.
See, we don't differ. We differ about the way I believe they're going about it versus the way you want them to go about it. Yet the end game is the same. Would you agree?
I would say so, but I think that there is a lack of aggressiveness that I want to see in this Republican administration versus the aggressiveness that the Democrats brought. I want it full-fledged, like I was saying during the break, these lawsuits that Pam Bondi has brought about against Kathy Hochul and all of them.
Frustrating.
Okay. And like you were saying, okay, well, we nailed them in the process because they're going to lie and withhold information. Okay, great. Those are probably going to be federal misdemeanors, or they'll be dismissed altogether because they'll get a court in their favor upon appeal. And so nothing will really happen. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all nothing, essentially. And I think Pam Bondi's going to be a big nothing burger as a district attorney.
That will depend, I believe,
Attorney General, I'm sorry,
on whether or not she allows herself to let the deep state, run roughshod over her. Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason. There's a lot going on, Andy. What we were talking about there was, during the break, Greg and I had a lively discussion about charges being brought civilly in New York and Chicago. I want to see felony charges brought as well. And Greg asked the question during the break, why is it the Democrats do this? Bring all these charges? Because the Democrats weaponize government against their political opponents and any other cause that they do not align themselves ideologically with. Andy, is that right?
Andy?
That would help again if there we go. Maybe I should turn my microphone back on.
Hey, there's a cough button in a radio studio, ladies and gentlemen. If you push it and hold it, it stays red.
Yeah.
And if you just leave it alone
right.
and don't put your headphones on, because the show's, then that happens. Anyway, Andy, you heard
that would do that.
You heard my question,
anyways,
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going on to say that, it's a really interesting conversation because you're right that the Democrats love to use the government for their benefit and weaponize it to silence the other opposition. Right. I was actually last week or 2 weeks ago, Dinesh D'Souza was here in town in Wichita, and I got to go to that and see him. And he spoke about that exact same thing. And his perspective was really interesting on the issue where he said that Democrats go with the assumption that we try to take the higher road and don't stoop down to their level to fight in the trenches like they do, to weaponize and do exactly what they do. And
that's correct.
And you know what? And it's true. You're right. It is true because we don't, because that's not what the role of government's supposed to be for. We're not supposed to weaponize the government against a political opponent. We're not supposed to do this, and that's not it's against our moral values. It's against our constitutional values. We're not supposed to do that. And the fact that they do, we see them as so low. They see that as, well, we can get away with whatever we want to.
That's correct.
Because the Republicans aren't going to do the same thing to us. If we do that, which is why Donald Trump's been kind of a wild card for them and they don't like him, and why they don't like him so much is because he hasn't quite gone as nasty as them, but he's definitely utilized it more so than what other Republicans have. And the case that Dinesh D'Souza made at the time was, if we do end up weaponizing the government against the Democrats, then what comes out of that later on is like what we've seen with our Bill of Rights was, hey, we need to make laws to make sure this doesn't happen again, where both sides can finally agree that that's not going to be okay moving forward. And sometimes you have to give them a taste of their own medicine for them to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't be allowing this kind of mindset instead of just having a gentleman's handshake on it. and then they go about and do whatever they want to do. So, yeah, I mean, Donald Trump has taken it further than what Republicans usually do. To your point, Greg, should we take it a little bit further? I don't know. I mean, probably at the same time, my moral compass is like, yeah, that's not the way we roll. We do take the higher ground because we are, a little bit morally more. I would say spineless. I would say morally
do nothing spineless. It's exactly what it sounds like to me.
No, Greg, we fight them in a different way.
Greg's laughter, the moment he did that, I was having to contain myself. And the reason I was, because I know exactly where he's going with that. Greg wants us to do the same thing they did to us on steroids.
Absolutely.
Okay. And trust me, I understand that. Okay. It's a street fight. The Democrats never fight fair. We know that. All right. I believe Trump is going to do that, but he's going to do it in a way, Andy, that upholds those values that you're talking about. He's gonna outsmart them all the way around without weaponizing the government against them the way the Democrats have done it against the Republicans. It remains to be seen how effective that's going to be, but I don't think Trump is going to take those 34 felony convictions laying down. I don't think he's going to take the nonsense laying down, the lies laying down, withholding of documents lying down. I don't think he's going to do that. But I would argue and could argue all day long that we don't want to stoop to the level that the Democrats do, because in the long run, guess what comes out of that? Civil war at some point. Okay? At some point, it's just going to get absolutely flat out nasty. It's that simple. That day will come if we continue to do that. So we do want to fight fair. If we've got the upper hand, if we know we're right, we can beat them at their own game, but we have to do it smartly, and that's the difference. So, Greg, I understand your laughter, because I'm like you. You get punched in the face in a street fight, you better punch back, baby. Okay? Or you're going to get your ass kicked, quite frankly.
There's no such thing as a fair fight in the street. And that is
no such thing as a fair fight.
And all is fair in love and war. And this is war. And we need to be ready to fight war like we know. Because if we are fighting for the survival of this country, we must take these people down and do it swiftly and justly so people never want to try it again. That is how we have to act. We can't sit here and act all merciful and taking the high road and I'll just get dirty and go at it and let's get it over with and Nagasaki, Hiroshima them and be done with it.
Well, here's the good news. Is that right now they are so irrelevant because of what they did that people have turned their backs on them. Now, will the pendulum swing back the other way? Yes, it will at some point, whether it's 2 years from now, 4 years from now, or 6 years from now, the pendulum's going to swing back the other direction. But right now, at this moment, the Democrats they are virtually irrelevant. We have the majority, even though it may be slim, in the House, the Senate, the presidency, and even the Supreme Court of the United States. We have the majority of the legislatures at the state level are Republican or Republican leaning for the most part as well. This is where we ram through our agenda policy-wise without dealing with the weaponization of the DOJ and that sort of thing. We ram it through. We cut this government down to the nth degree. I mean, we cut it by like 80%.
I'd like to respond to this after the break.
And we get so small that they can't do what they did before because they don't have the resources and the ability to do so.
The Democrats have corrupted the system. We can beat them at their own game without corrupting the system. When we come back, Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues. I'm going to go to a fascinating story with you that, right there with you. Can you trust anything they tell you? We'll be right back.
Worldwide and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Yeah, welcome back to the 6 Hour Studios with me, guys. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues. Make sure to check out our partners, please. Visit them all at armedamericanradio.com. Need some MyPillow stuff? Support them. They've had a tough year. Support them. We've all had a tough year. There's no question about it. Nobody sitting in this chair or anywhere, any other chair, hadn't had a tough time. We're coming out of 4 years of what was, look over your shoulder, what in the world just happened in this country? So if you have an opportunity to support these great businesses that support your right to bear arms, support them. It's really easy to do. You need a pillow? Don't go to Walmart. Use your MyPillow deal at AAR and support them. It's that simple. It says, thanks for supporting my gun rights. Get a great product. You can do that with all of our partners, including Bud's Gun Shop, HeavensHarvest.com, Emerson Knives, EmersonKnives.com. Got one sitting over here. I'll flip it up on the screen in a little bit if you're watching. Always fun to do. Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason. Welcome back in, brother. These conversations brought to you every day by X Insurance. Andy, again, more lively conversation during the break. This is a hot topic. Mm-hmm. You know, can you ever believe anything that's coming from these people? And I think we all know the answer to that. The answer to that is no. We don't trust our government, period. And it is going to take decades to flip that ship. Trump is doing it quicker than anybody else, I think, could have ever done it. I don't know of any modern politician of either party that would have been capable of doing it, or for that matter, would have even wanted to do it, because they're all sucking off the same trough. That's why McConnell won't leave, okay? It's the same reasons for Pelosi, all right? Do you really believe Bob Menendez is the only politician that's got gold bars and $100 bill stacks in his walls? No.
Probably from Fort Knox.
The answer, he's not an outlier. But he was so unlikable, and as Greg said, got so sloppy that the Democrats, and I use the words, threw him under the bus so that they could say, look, we go after our own too. Because we're not weaponizing the government. Bob Menendez is a Democrat. Bob Menendez is just a dirty, greasy politician that even the Democrats don't like. Okay? So it was easy to toss that moron under the bus. Now, let's go back to believing things. Do you honestly believe, Andy, that the Democrats don't want to take your guns?
They've openly said they do.
What, they beat around the bush. They say they don't. They support the Second Amendment, but...
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Yeah, and that's from a politician with no power.
A loser.
A loser that lost elections, but he made it clear.
3-time loser.
Right, he came out and said it. So what do the Democrats do? They realize if you come out and say it, we're going to lose an election, so we're not going to say it. We're going to pretend to support the Second Amendment. So we can't believe anything they tell us ever. Media, who believes anything that comes from them anymore? You've been lied to for so long. Why would you believe anything that Martha Raddatz tells you ever again?
Right.
So
Mark,
let's take
this reminds me of...
Yeah.
I mean, remember, this is the FDR agenda, and this is why Democrats got impatient. And I always go back to the last time Bernie Sanders ran for president a few years back when he said it's time to complete the FDR agenda. And FDR essentially said that while the politicians come and go, while the political spectrum and the pendulum ebbs and flows and goes from one side to the other, the administrative state continues cranking along. Mm-hmm. It slowly takes away freedoms. It creates more taxes. It creates more regulations. It consumes more power. And it does it slowly and incrementally to where we don't recognize it because we're so focused on the politician, regardless of what other side comes and goes inside government, that the deep state, this parallel government continues to grow. And that's why this is so important. And that's why, like you said, going into the break, is that, yes, we don't have to sink to the level that they do and weaponize everything and use the same force that they used against us. We have to eliminate the ability for it to happen again by cutting the size of government, cutting the power that the federal government has to where no one has the ability to do that again from either side of the aisle. And that's what Trump needs to do. That's what we're starting to do. We're just kind of scratching the surface, but we need to hit the government so hard that we cut this thing by roughly 80%. We take the power away from the courts to make the sole decision on issues with weaponized justices that are in there making ridiculous decisions. And we need to cut government so big that they can't weaponize it against us, and it disallows us to weaponize it against them as well. And that way they lose all their power. This entire FDR agenda that's been going on for 100+ years now gets completely decimated, and they're back to square one. That's what we have to do in this administration.
Bernie Sanders. All Trump is doing with Elon Musk is giving tax breaks to billionaires and millionaires. I'm a millionaire, but don't ask me about that and the hundreds of thousands of acres I own in Vermont. On my,
all the pharma money.
On my taxpayer salary.
I mean, who believes these people? Okay, it's cynicism. None of us do, frankly. Now, the ones that do on both sides that believe everything that comes out of everybody's mouths. Those are the ideologues whose minds you're never going to change. So I want to take this to the UFO deal because there is a great piece out, Andy, and I sent it to you. And groundbreaking UFO documentary director breaks silence on film's revelations. And if you read this, it came out of the Hollywood Reporter, but it's about, obviously because of the film, and it debuted at South by Southwest. Greg, I think that was Sunday yesterday. Isn't that in Austin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it debuted Sunday, and I believe it's going to be released, if I'm not mistaken, I think March 13th. I'm not sure about that. It's called The Age of Disclosure. And this guy, Andy, if you read the piece, you know, did over 34 interviews with very high-ranking government officials who were all under NDA. He filmed the thing in secret. So if the government is telling you they don't want to take your guns, and you know they want to take your guns, if the government is telling you, well, you know, we don't weaponize
you can
government.
keep your doctor.
Well, yeah, you want to keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If the government tells you these things, you know you're being gaslighted, you know you're being lied to. Why would you believe the government when they said, oh, come on, give me a break, that stuff's not real? Why would you believe that?
Right.
Now, you've got 34 very high-ranking individuals throughout the U.S. military, intelligence community, government, with direct knowledge of the UAP quote-unquote phenomenon, who are making statements. There will be videos released, etc., in addition to what's already been put out there. The guy who did the film said he'd never been more scared in his life and walked away convinced that non-human intelligent life exists and that the government has evidence of it and proof of it and has been reverse engineering this technology for years. Now, this is nothing, we've talked about this before, but when you put it in the bigger context, do you believe what the government tells you happened about what happened in Vegas, the Vegas shooting? They just stopped talking about it. Do you believe what they told you about Kennedy? Do you believe what they told you about Bay of Pigs? Do you believe what they told you about the elections with Kennedy in Chicago? Do you believe Kennedy had no ties to the mobs or anything else? Do you believe Marilyn Monroe just died on her own? Do you believe all that? Yeah. Then why would you believe anything they tell you when they tell you this is not true?
Right.
And that's just, I'm flipping the script there. Why would you believe any of that? If you don't go into this, looking at this with an open mind, well, I have a feeling in the very near future, you're going to be shocked. Okay.
And I can't wait. I can't wait.
I know you can't wait. But to think somehow that we can just literally discredit everything they tell us on every front, and then this front, all of a sudden, oh, they're telling the truth. Guys, that's like Bondi going in thinking she's going to get everything she wanted from the FBI in New York. That's not going to happen. It just simply isn't going to happen.
And it's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, it is. Take us to the break with us. We'll come back and get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's just scratching the surface. Look, I mean, it's starting to leak out and disclosures happening at a faster rate, which is why over the summer last year, when we heard the fact that we had quote unquote non-biologics, and that was in the subcommittee with Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace that headed that one, that we have not, that we have biologics that are running, that they recovered at these sites. I mean, look, the information's there. We know it. Again, we know that they know. We're just waiting for them to admit it. And the fact that, you know, they're just putting this blinder up, they're just guarding it, they're not allowing this information to get out. It goes along with every other single thing out there. You already know, just admit it. You know, it's like the kid, you broke the vase, admit you broke the vase, so that way we can begin to mend the vase and figure out how to make sure the vase doesn't get broken again. Government, we know you lie, we know you cheat, we know you steal, we know you gaslight, we know you manipulate, and that's why just admit it, to where if you're going to make us trust you again, then you have a lot of work to do to come clean on a lot of different issues.
Yeah, don't think the government would hurt you if you're coming out with something they don't want coming out. I'm going to read you some quotes when we come back. The UAP thing, it's not just about UAPs. It's about the government's reaction to things and the garbage that we get from them. It becomes very obvious when you take the blinders off and hover over objectively and get out of the bubble and look down. Hey, I think I might be being lied to. We'll be right back.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Back to the show, final segment, everybody. Welcome back. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues on a fun day, Monday. It's always fun to have Andy Hoosier. Told you I was going to show you that Emerson knife. Here she is in all of her glory. Whoop, pop that thing right open with one hand. Absolutely beautiful. Make sure to get yours over at emersonKnives.com. Use the AAR promo code, get 10% off. I've got a bunch of these, and several of them are collectible and are actually very valuable. Really cool stuff. emersonKnives.com. emersonKnives.com. As I mentioned before, heavensharvest.com. Also patriotsrelief.com. And let's not forget Barrel Buddy, barrelbuddy.com. Pitch the patch, guys. Clean your guns the modern way. Use a Barrel Buddy. Super easy to do. 2 passes, your guns are clean. It's that simple. Andy Hoosier, voice of reason. Welcome back, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm going to go back to this UAP thing for a minute. Listeners, this is not about whether you believe UFOs are real or not. That's not what this is about. This is about whether you believe what the government is telling you. Okay? That's the importance of this. That was the whole gist of the show today. I just started seeing some of this, and reading some of these tweets today, and it's X's posts, formerly known as Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And just the lies coming out, just one right after the other, are absolutely incredible. One of them, Andy, was an unknown Democrat that had about, 38,000 followers on Twitter or something. Certainly not up in influencer territory on Twitter as those numbers go, but a substantial base, talking about how much money Donald Trump has wasted since he's been in office playing golf. And I thought, good Lord, this woman not aware that Joe Biden spent 70% of his vacation flying back and forth to Delaware on our dime? Literally on vacation, 60 to 70% of his time. It was incredible. But anyway, the lies are unbelievable. But when we were talking about this UAP documentary, this UFO documentary, were any of your sources threatened for their participation? Now, this thing was made in secret for 2 years, Andy, and everybody that participated was under NDAs. And he said, yes, clearly. Some of them were told very clearly there will be consequences for them and that they would be in danger if they participated not only in my documentary, but any documentary. Now, do we really believe the government wouldn't harm somebody? Do you honestly believe the CIA doesn't operate within the United States borders? Come on, people. Come on. Wake up. Of course they do. They have to. So, Andy, when you look at this stuff, again, from whether or not these are lies being told to you by the federal government, it's absolutely, completely legit to ask the question, what do we know? And what aren't they telling us? About any topic you can come up with when it comes to government. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, and there's open cases about this. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, if you remember when she was being grilled to become Director of National Intelligence, who's the guy that's over in Russia right now that we're waiting to pardon because of all the information that he was dropping you with WikiLeaks and all this other information. We know the government's keeping things. Now,
you're talking about Assange,
Julian Assange and all those. I mean, look, there's the only time that I can see the argument to keep information from the public is if it puts people that are actively on a military mission, if it puts them in harm's way because of disclosing their location or what we're doing in that sense. Now, should we be involved in a whole bunch of secret missions around the world? Probably not. Unless we're at least like taking out a military operation, take out a terrorist organization or something. But if it's the CIA out there trying to manipulate another government to start a coup to overthrow the government, so that way it's a government that's more friendly with us, we need to kind of stop that kind of garbage. And I'm okay with leaking that information as well. But look, that is like the only reason why I would be okay with some type of government secrecy, or like 9/11 when the president disappeared. We didn't know where Air Force One was. I'm okay with that during a time of disaster as well, to make sure that if we know, then the terrorists probably know where they're at as well. That being said, outside of putting someone in harm's way directly, every other piece of information should be released to the general public. We should know what's going on, and we should have a thought on it. And their thought is that we're too stupid, or that we don't have all the intel to properly understand what's going on, which is probably true right now with the lack of intel that they actually give us. So we need to be more transparent on that front. I heard a guy that did do a major bit of disclosure on UFOs especially, and said that some of the reasons that those videos or photos haven't been released is because it was during secret operations of us overseas in places we weren't supposed to be, which, okay, fine. we shouldn't have been doing that. At the same time, if that was 20, 30, 40 years ago, then I don't really care anymore. We need to own up to the mistake and the fact that we were there in the first place. We shouldn't be doing that. We need to release that information. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, there's literal people that have been extradited from the United States and hiding away in other nations because they released information, and they continue to release information that the government did not want out there.
Yeah, and the bigger question becomes, are you ever going to believe that you have everything? And I will never believe we have everything. I don't care what the subject matter is. It doesn't matter to me. They're withholding something. Somebody somewhere is withholding something. We will never get to the truth. And when you question that, for example, the government wants you to believe that Las Vegas is under investigation. Do you really believe that? They already know what happened in Vegas.
It's been how long?
Right. Yeah. There's a reason they've not told you. And that's because everything that you're thinking, ladies and gentlemen, about whatever it might be about Vegas is likely true.
Right.
You believe the Warren report? Okay. Then you already know what happened. Don't? Then you already know they're not telling you the truth about it. You know they're lying to you. And again, if they're lying to you about this, they're likely lying to you about everything. That's where the mistrust comes in. We can never trust them to do anything. So when the government tells you, we don't want to take your guns, yeah, okay. They do want to take your guns. They're actively working to do just that. Why don't they want you to know about whatever technology we might have? Why do they want you to not know these things? Do you know that we don't know? Do we know we don't know? The fact that we ask these questions means we probably do know. And that is, we don't believe anything we're being told, Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason, about anything. Nothing.
And it's sad. It's sad, right? I mean, we went from an age of, the 1950s with the white picket fence, everybody just working a little bit and then going home and having the barbecue, having the family time. Everything's going to be great. The government's taking care of us. Don't worry about things. I just want to live my life, start my bowling club, just go out and have a grand old day. Those were like hyped up as like the golden age, right? That we had this white picket fence and that we had this community gathering and that everything was fine, and we didn't have to worry about a whole lot. Like, that's when, unfortunately, the government took advantage of us big time. And that's when we saw the increase of this bureaucratic agencies, and we saw the creation of the Department of Education and this government agency and that government agency, because we weren't caring. We were just going about our day, living our life. It's like we have to be hawks over the government constantly to challenge them on what they're doing, or else they will run rampant either side of the aisle, and people just allow that to happen.
Yet Donald Trump's election will get us to a point where our level of cynicism might start to reduce somewhat. But it is not going to happen in 4 years. It's likely not going to happen in 40 years. But we're off to a quicker start with Donald Trump, at least heading in that right direction, than we ever would have been before. Imagine another Biden administration. Imagine a Kamala Harris regime. My God. Juxtapose one against the other, what's happening now versus what would have happened then. How do we know what would have happened? Because we lived it for 4 years.
Right.
It was horrific. Andy, tell people where they can watch all your cool, fun stuff right after this show.
Yeah, you bet. HoosierReason.com, HOOSER Reason, or you can find the podcast at The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier. Happy Monday, Mark, as always. I always love jumping on here to kick off the week.
It's always fun. What's the temperature in Kansas, real quick, before I let you go?
It's a miserable 80 degrees right now.
Miserable 80 degrees. Greg, I hear Greg in the background. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, well, it's not a miserable 80 here. I wish it was. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get up and do it again tomorrow. We'll be talking with Lee, the gun writer Williams, about all kinds of fun stuff. We'll see what he's doing for the investigative journalism over at the Second Amendment Foundation. Enjoy your Monday, folks. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Thanks for being here.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
I've already cut the live feed.
All right.
I didn't feel like saying anything after that. Done. Bye. We're done.